We're here to dive into the idea of enrichment, something many people strive for, but only a few really nail. In simpler terms, getting a handle on what true prosperity means isn't something everyone can pull off. Now, when we talk about prosperity, think of it like a three-legged stool. It's made up of health, wealth, and family. Sure, having money might seem like the ultimate goal. But let's imagine this scenario for a second. Picture yourself with a bank account overflowing with cash, but then you find out you've got a serious illness, maybe even terminal cancer. At that point, wouldn't you give anything, every penny you have, to get better? So, clearly, money alone doesn't cut it if your health is shot. Now, let's say you're blessed with both money and good health, but you don't have anyone close to share it with. No family, no loved ones. Doesn't that feel a bit empty? It's like having a killer playlist but no speakers. What's the point if you can't share the vibes? So, here's the deal. True prosperity isn't just about having one of these things. It's about the whole package: health, wealth, and family. That's what real prosperity looks like. Let's do a quick exercise together. Just drop a comment saying, "Prosperity is health, wealth, and family." I'll give it a like when I see it. Alright, let's zoom in on money for a bit. What exactly does financial success mean? Financial success means never having to say no to something you want just because you're low on funds. It's when you can enjoy life without constantly worrying about money. If you find yourself stuck doing things you hate because you need the cash, or holding back on things you love because you can't afford them, then you're not really financially free yet. There are 4 levels when it comes to money. Level 1 is just survival mode. You're basically living paycheck to paycheck, or worse, you're spending more than you make and getting buried in debt. This level? Yeah, it sucks. Level 2 is what I like to call the treading water level. You're spending exactly what you earn, so you're not sinking, but you're not getting ahead either. You're just floating. Level 3 is when you finally manage to save a little extra cash, but you're stashing it under the mattress, or worse, letting it rot in a low-interest account, losing value thanks to inflation. And then there's Level 4, the sweet spot. Here, you're earning, spending less than you earn, and investing the difference. This is where you start making your money work for you instead of the other way around. It's the level where financial independence lives, but only about 5% of people ever get here. So, what we're going to talk about today is how to get that prosperity mindset so you can turn the tables and make money work for you, not the other way around. Having a prosperity mindset lets you navigate life smoothly, whether you've got a fat wallet or not. Sure, life's easier with cash in hand, but believe it or not, there are people out there living their best lives without much money at all. But let's be real, that's not the path we're aiming for here. We're all about the road to prosperity, where you learn how to create wealth. To get the hang of wealth creation, you've got to understand the wheel of abundance. Your prosperity in life is directly tied to how fast this wheel spins. You might be wondering, why isn't the wheel spinning faster for me? Well, one reason could be emotional roadblocks. Maybe deep down, you think money is dirty, or you've bought into the idea that rich people don't make it to heaven. You know, like that old saying, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter heaven. Another reason could be ignoring the basic rules of wealth. Earn, spend, save, invest. These are like the ABCs of money management. They work anywhere and should be something we're taught from a young age. Unfortunately, most people go their entire lives without mastering them. That's why we're here today, because we want to take a different path in life, right? Now, let's talk about financial math. It's crucial to get comfortable with numbers. There's this common issue floating around called math phobia, something people pick up when they're kids, where they just can't stand dealing with numbers. But here's the thing. If numbers freak you out, your chances of becoming a millionaire are pretty slim. Being good with money means getting cozy with math. What we're going to do now is help you clear out those emotional blocks. Imagine this. You're 6 years old, sitting at the dinner table with your parents. Your dad, probably sitting at the head of the table, says something like, "I'd rather you be poor but honest than rich and dishonest." At that age, you're not going to challenge him. You're not going to say, "Hey, Dad, actually, there are honest rich people and dishonest poor people too. Wealth and honesty don't have to be mutually exclusive. Instead, you just soak it in, and that idea becomes a part of how you see the world. Fast forward 20 or 30 years, and let's say you start making good money. Guess what happens? You might start sabotaging yourself. No one wants to be seen as dishonest, right? So, if deep down you believe that making money equals being dishonest, you might find ways to lose that money just to keep your integrity intact. Some folks carry this mindset with them their entire lives. Once a belief is set, it's like it's got a life of its own. It keeps reinforcing itself. You start acting in ways that align with what you believe, which then makes those beliefs even stronger. That's why it's so important to understand this wheel of abundance and how it can get jammed up by emotional baggage, like a handbrake that's stuck. For example, remember when you were 6 years old and you were dressed up in your best outfit, going to an important event? You get there, and someone in a suit with a microphone says, "It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter heaven." You go home with that stuck in your head. Later, you see a huge camel on TV and then look at a tiny needle, and you think, yeah, there's no way that camel's fitting through that needle. I guess I better stay poor if I want to get into heaven. Years go by, and you might forget about that moment. But it still lingers in your subconscious, influencing how you think about wealth. What that person with the microphone didn't tell you is the full story. Back in the day, Jerusalem had city walls with gates that were closed at night. If a caravan or camel arrived late, they had to enter through a smaller gate called the Needle. To get through, camels had to kneel down and be unloaded of their baggage. The real message is about humility and letting go of material baggage, not that having wealth keeps you out of heaven. You don't take your stuff with you when you die, right? There aren't any drawers in your coffin for your belongings. Everything you have in this life isn't really yours, you're just managing it for a while. When you leave this world, the only thing you take with you is your experiences, not your material goods. But that doesn't mean having money is a bad thing. Money is just a tool, like a rope or a knife. A rope can be used to help someone or to hurt them. A knife can spread butter or cause harm. So money, by itself, isn't good or bad. It's how you use it that matters. When used right, money can even support your spiritual journey. It's important to understand that there's nothing wrong with making money. You just need to know how to use it wisely, without letting greed or envy take over. At the same time, remember that you can't take it with you when you go. The goal is to make your money work for you and to use it to benefit others as well. Let's break down the wheel of abundance a bit more. It's got two parts, giving and receiving. You can't keep a wheel spinning if you're only using one side, right? Some people have a hard time with giving. They're super stingy, and that's not cool. Some people struggle with accepting help or gifts because they're too proud. But we can't be like that if we want to thrive. Then, there are those who have a hard time both giving and receiving, which is like the ultimate level of being stuck. Only a small number of people have truly mastered the art of both giving and receiving. If you want to boost your prosperity and get that wheel of abundance turning faster in your life, you've got to learn how to balance both giving and receiving. Here's a little analogy to make this clearer. Think of a gardener pruning plants in a garden. It's pretty cool if you think about it. When you prune, you're actually encouraging growth. Isn't that awesome? So, when you're giving, it's kind of like trimming back the branches on your money tree to help it grow even more. In other words, the act of giving, whether it's through charity or generosity, is like pruning your financial tree to make it flourish. When you help someone who really needs it, that's charity. But when you give something to someone who could easily get it themselves, that's generosity. Like when you buy a friend a birthday gift they could totally afford on their own. That's being generous, not charitable. The idea is to practice both virtues. It's important to work on both charity and generosity. If you only focus on charity, you might end up sending this message to your subconscious. In this world, only those who are needy get anything, so if I want to gain something, I have to be in need. That's a pretty limiting belief to carry around. But when you also practice generosity, giving to those who don't really need it, you're telling yourself, hey, even if I'm not in need, I can still receive. So, I'd suggest making room for both charity and generosity in your life. Now, let's switch gears and talk about 4 super important actions you need to take to keep that wheel of abundance spinning. Declare, request, risk, and thank. First up, the word declare is all about understanding the importance of giving before getting. A lot of people think, if I had the money, I'd do what rich folks do. But be careful with that mindset. You need to know how to handle your wealth, or you might end up losing it all in no time. Here's something wild. Over 90% of lottery winners are actually worse off financially just 10 years later. Why? Because before they hit the jackpot, they didn't have the right mindset, and they blew all their money without even realizing it. By the time they caught on, they had nothing left, sometimes even less than nothing. So, it's crucial to be, do, and then have. We create our reality through the things we say, and declaring something is a powerful way to start making it real. In legal terms, a declaration can literally change reality. For example, when a couple says, "I do," the judge declares them married. If they want to split up, they declare a divorce, and the judge has the power to make it official. You're like the judge in your own life, with the power to make declarations about yourself. If you declare that you're prosperous, you'll start acting in ways that align with that prosperity, and soon enough, you'll start seeing it in your life. So don't underestimate the power of the word declare. Use it in the areas where you want to see change. Next up is the word request. Requesting is a way of generating power, and a lot of people, especially the shy ones, struggle because they don't know how to ask for what they want. There's an old saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. It's true. If you don't make your requests known, the universe can't fulfill them. You've got to be clear about what you want and ask for it. Whether you're asking God, the universe, or just the people around you. The third action to master is taking risks. If you're not willing to take risks, it's going to be tough to achieve prosperity. There's just no way around it. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swiss psychologist who worked in the United States, spent a lot of her time teaching people about death. In one of her courses, which lasted 10 days, she helped people prepare for the end of life. On the last day, she'd give them a test to see if they were really ready to face death. When asked if they had to live their lives over again, nearly everyone said they would take more risks. This just goes to show how important calculated risk is in life. When you reach your 90s or 95, if someone asks you what you'd do differently if you could live your life again, chances are you'd say the same thing. Take more risks. But taking risks doesn't mean doing reckless stuff. It's about taking smart, calculated risks. Think of a trapeze artist at the circus. There's this critical moment when they let go of one trapeze and reach for the next. They have to make sure the other trapeze is coming their way, but there's still that brief moment when they're vulnerable. Some people spend their whole lives trying to avoid that moment of vulnerability, clinging to a false sense of security that doesn't really exist. Life is about opportunities, not guarantees. So, you need to get comfortable with taking risks in your life. Last but not least, let's talk about the word thank. Gratitude is the mother of all virtues. A lot of people spend their time complaining about what they've lost or what they wish they had. It's rare to find someone who says, "I'm grateful for what I have and for what I don't have." The practice of gratitude is absolutely essential. You need to learn how to be thankful for what you have if you want to attract more of what you desire. Gratitude works like feedback in the system of life, so make sure you're practicing the act of giving thanks more often. By working on declaring, requesting, taking risks, and being thankful, you'll find it easier to get that wheel of abundance spinning faster in your life. These actions are powerful tools to shape your reality and bring more prosperity into your world. Now, let's take a quick detour into the world of science, philosophy, and psychology, because it all ties into what we're talking about here. Science, in case you need a refresher, is all about studying the cause and effect of natural phenomena. When we investigate cause and effect, we're doing science. Philosophy, on the other hand, is the study of thoughts, while psychology focuses on how these thoughts affect people's behavior. What we're doing here is looking at prosperity through scientific, philosophical, and psychological lenses to build a better understanding of how it works. Let's talk about the mind for a sec. It's got two main parts, the thinker and the prover. The thinker just thinks. It generates ideas, beliefs, and thoughts. The prover's job is to prove whatever the thinker thinks. For example, if you think making money is tough, guess what? You're right. But if you think making money is easy, you're right about that too. It's like that saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right either way. The prover will back up whatever the thinker came up with, and this will show up in your life, including your bank account. Here's a key to prosperity. The quality of being in the moment is everything. To make this clearer, imagine it's Friday night. You just got home from work, kick off your shoes, and turn on the TV to watch the lottery draw. By some wild coincidence, you bought a ticket earlier, and as you pull it out of your pocket, you realize the numbers on the screen match your ticket. Boom, you've just won $1 million. Now, even though you can't cash in your prize until Monday morning, you're going to have the best weekend ever. There's no way you're letting anything ruin your mood, even though all you really have is a piece of paper in your pocket. You might say, but it's a winning ticket. I know I've got $1 million coming my way, and sure, that's true. But right now, it's just a piece of paper, isn't it? Yet, you're going to be on cloud 9 all weekend because you know that come Monday, that ticket is turning into a cool $1 million. If you could hold on to that kind of certainty for everything you want in the future, you'd be unstoppable. But, of course, keeping that level of confidence is tough, right? That's the tricky part. Sometimes, you get really pumped up when you achieve a goal, but it's hard to stay in that state of mind for long. So, what's the secret to prosperity? The secret is to embrace that feeling of already being there, even when you're still on the journey. Imagine you suddenly had $1 million. How would you feel? You'd probably say, I'd be on top of the world. Well, why not start feeling that way all the time? Keep that vibe going 24/7, and who knows, it might just bring those $1 million vibes into your life. But here's the catch. Most of us can't hold on to that feeling because of how our minds are wired. That's exactly why you're here, listening to me talk about this stuff. So, let's break it down. Remember this little model. The thinker thinks, and the prover proves. Your mind has these two parts, the thinker who comes up with ideas and the prover who makes them real. But here's a cool fact. Your mind isn't just chilling in your brain. Nope, it's spread out all over your body. If you ask someone, hey, where's your mind? They'll probably point to their head. But that's not the whole picture. Your mind is in every part of you, even your big toe. Think about it. If you cut your toe, it heals on its own. There's intelligence at work there, and it's the same kind of intelligence that's running the show in your liver, kidneys, spleen, and everywhere else. This mind-body connection is pretty awesome because it links up with what you might call divine intelligence. Through this connection, you can take ideas from some other plane of existence and bring them into reality through your mind. So, you've got to learn how to create something out of nothing. Sounds crazy, right? But it's true. Everything starts from nothing. Take a chair, for example. Before chairs were a thing, people just squatted or sat on the ground. Then one day, someone had a bright idea and, boom, the chair was born out of nothing. The creative process boils down to 3 key principles: high analysis, suggestions, and goals. First, the principle of high analysis. What have you been thinking about that shaped your life into what it is today? Take a good look at what's been on your mind when it comes to money, and you'll see the answer right in your bank account. What you've been thinking about money is what's showing up in your life. When you change the way you think, you'll see those numbers in your bank account change too. Next up, suggestions. You've probably picked up a ton of negative suggestions over the years, mostly from your parents, who, with the best intentions, might have passed on some wrong ideas. Think about it. To be a doctor, you need to study medicine. To be a lawyer, you need to study law. But to be a parent? All you need is a relationship. No one goes to school to learn how to be a mom or dad, and no one takes a course on how to be a good teacher to their kids. So, parents make mistakes, and in doing so, they pass on a bunch of negative thoughts and behaviors. By the time we're 4 or 5 years old, we've heard no more than 100,000 times. For every compliment a 4-year-old gets, they receive 9 criticisms. That's a lot of negativity, and it leaves a mark on how we think about money and life in general. To flip this script, you need to turn those negative suggestions into positive ones. Speak, write, listen to, and even record yourself repeating these positive ideas until they become part of who you are. The third principle is understanding the difference between goals and purposes. Let's say you're in New York and want to get to Chicago. You'd leave New York and head straight to Chicago, right? That's because you have a clear goal in mind. But what if you're in New York and just want to travel west? You'll hit Chicago, but then you'll keep going. You'll pass through Los Angeles, maybe end up in Sydney, Australia, and eventually, you'll circle back to New York because the Earth is round. Traveling west is a purpose. It's a direction, not a destination. But going to Chicago is a goal. It's a specific endpoint. One thing is having a goal, but having a purpose in life is a whole different game. So, what's your purpose in life? Here's a little challenge. Ask yourself this question every night for 21 nights before you go to bed. What is my purpose in life? When you figure out your purpose, things start to shift in your world. You'll find yourself with more energy, more drive, and suddenly, Monday becomes the best day of the week. Money problems? They won't seem so big anymore. So, what's your purpose in life? Once you figure that out and start aligning your goals with your purpose, you'll notice a big change in how things go for you. Understanding the difference between goals and purposes is a game changer. Now, let's dive into something even more practical, the laws of wealth. These are rules that should be taught in kindergarten, like how gravity works the same no matter where you are on Earth. The laws of wealth are the same. They work anywhere, whether it's the law of earning, spending, saving, or investing. Let's start with the law of earning. All money is created by the human mind. This might sound a little out there, but hear me out. Financial problems can't be solved with money alone. That's right, money isn't the answer to money problems. Imagination is. Imagine your rent is due, and you don't have the cash to pay it. So, you borrow money from a friend to cover it. But then what? You do nothing different for the rest of the month, and when next month rolls around, you're in the same spot. Rent's due, and you're broke. Plus, now you owe your friend. Or let's say your business isn't doing well, so you go to the bank and take out a loan. But then you just carry on as before, without making any changes. Next month, you're still struggling, but now you owe the bank too, capital and interest. So, what did that loan really solve? Nothing. Even on a bigger scale, think about a country going through financial trouble. They borrow money from the IMF but don't make any changes. The next thing you know, they're in even deeper trouble, with a pile of debt and more strings attached to that loan. It's like a modern form of colonization, not with ships and soldiers, but with economic control. The point is, financial problems aren't fixed with money. They're fixed with creativity and imagination. Everything around you, from the phone in your hand to the chair you're sitting on, started as an idea in someone's mind before it became a physical thing. Wealth works the same way. Do you think you can just walk down the street and stumble upon a bag of money that changes your life? Not likely. First, you have to imagine that wealth, and then you make it happen in the real world. That's the law of earning. Next up is the law of spending. The value of money isn't set in stone. It's decided by both the buyer and the seller in every transaction. Picture this. You're scrolling through Instagram on a lazy Sunday morning and see an ad for a car you really like. It's a bit pricey, but you're intrigued. Go check it out anyway, you never know. The seller might be willing to negotiate. The point is, the value of money is fluid, depending on who's buying and who's selling. Now, imagine you're paddling down a treacherous river and your boat capsizes. You're left holding a backpack with $10,000 inside, all dry and safe. You meet someone who's lived their whole life in the wilderness and has never seen money before. They've got a canoe, and you need a ride downstream. You offer them the $10,000, but they don't know what money is, so they refuse. But if you were in Miami and offered someone $10,000 to take you upstream, they'd probably jump at the chance. So, the value of money is all about context, what it means to the buyer and seller in that moment. And here's the kicker, The people who get rich aren't always the ones who make the most money. It's the ones who know how to spend wisely. If you're making $20,000 a month but only spending $19,000, you're saving $1,000 each month. But if you're earning $100,000 a year and spending $110,000, you're in debt every month by $10,000. What's funny is that society tends to praise those who earn big and spend it all, rather than those who earn less but still manage to save. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So, the situation is more messed up than it seems. You've got to get a grip on how you manage your expenses, and we'll dive into that more later. Now, let's move on to the third law, the law of saving. Do you know how to save money? Let me introduce you to a concept I like to call personal tithing. Here's the deal. You need to take 10% of what you earn and stash it away for yourself. But what usually happens? By the end of the month, you've paid everyone else, the dentist, the car loan, the college bills, the kids' stuff. But guess who you forgot to pay? Yup, yourself, the one who actually earned the money. Funny how that works, right? You've got to flip that script. You've got to make sure you're doing your personal tithe. Now, you might say, I don't do the personal tithe because I don't earn much to begin with. Well, here's the thing. If you're already earning a little, then 10% of that is also going to be a little. It's not going to make or break you. Think about it. Some people live on way less than what you make, so you can definitely make it work on 90% of your income. When you start setting aside that 10%, something magical happens in your life. You're sending a message to your subconscious that says, I'm living in abundance. I have enough, and I even have extra. Your subconscious starts to get comfy in this vibe of prosperity, which is super important. If you're thinking, but I already save 40% of my income, that's awesome. But make sure to separate that 10% from the rest. Why? Because this 10% is like a money magnet. The idea of tithing pops up in almost every religion worldwide, and it usually means giving 10%. So, these 10% that you save are your personal tithe. And here's the key. You can't touch this money for anything that's perishable or can be easily lost. You've got to save it until you've got enough to invest in something solid, like property or land. But don't spend it on things that won't last, because this is what builds your money magnet. Here's something interesting to think about. You turn on the faucet in your house, and water flows out. Where does it go? It goes to the river, and from the river, it heads to the sea. So, where does water really go? Water goes where there's more water. Love gravitates toward those who have love, and hate finds those who have hate. And money? Money goes to those who already have it. Money doesn't find its way to the poor. It goes to those who have more money. Imagine you walk into a bank, and you tell the manager, I'm in debt, please lend me some money. What's the response? A big fat no, but if you go in there and prove that you don't need the money, they'll be all over you with loan offers. Why? Because banks make their living off interest. It's a weird paradox. Those who need credit can't get it, and those who don't need it have easy access to it. Money attracts money, like draws like. That's why starting a personal tithe can help you attract more money. It's a little thing with a big impact. Now, let's talk about the law of investing. Investing is key. Most people don't really know how to invest, but here's the basic idea. You want your money to work for you instead of you always working for money. When you invest, you've got to keep it legit. You're not going to put your money into something shady, right? You need to invest in something that's legal and above board. When you're thinking about where to invest, there are three big things to consider: profitability, security, and liquidity. Profitability is about how much you can earn from the investment. Security is about how safe your money is, like, what's the risk involved? And liquidity is about how easily you can get your money out if you need it. Some money you'll want to park in long-term investments where security and profitability are more important than being able to access it quickly. Other times, you'll want to put money in something where you can pull it out whenever you need, even if the returns aren't as high. For example, you might keep some cash in a savings account because you can withdraw at any time, but don't expect huge profits from it. But just sticking to the laws of wealth, earning, spending, saving, investing, won't be enough. They're important, sure, but there's more to it. You also need to think about the psychological side of things. There are some heavy psychological factors that can mess with your ability to make money. For instance, say you visit a city and have a bad experience there. You probably won't want to go back, right? Another big psychological hurdle is parental disapproval. A lot of people feel like they can't out-earn their parents because they don't want to make them feel bad. This weird need to stay below your parents' financial level, even if you're not aware of it, affects about 30% of people around the world and acts like a brake on the wheel of abundance. This parental disapproval syndrome can really get in the way of your financial growth. So, it's crucial to work on these psychological issues before you dive into the laws of wealth, earning, spending, saving, and investing. Another thing to keep in mind is honesty. A lot of people would rather be poor and honest than rich and dishonest. Integrity should be the compass guiding your financial decisions so that you can lead a balanced and prosperous life. You need to rewire your brain on this one. There's also that feeling of imminent death, where you feel like you could kick the bucket at any moment. It's kind of like this. When a baby is born and takes that first breath, it's an inspiration. Literally, it's inhaling for the first time. Life kicks off with an inspiration, and it ends with an expiration. That's why when someone dies, we say they've expired, because they stopped breathing. So, when you take a breath with a sense of pain or fear, it can feel like you're staring death in the face, and that can get coded into your brain. We've got to live like we're going to live forever. How many people do you know who are around 65 years old and still have so much to offer, but they're basically gearing up to die? On the flip side, people who live past 90 or even 100 are often those who keep challenging themselves, creating new things, and setting fresh goals, as if they've got all the time in the world. That's a big deal. Another thing we need to talk about from a psychological angle is the whole idea of karma. I'm not here to debate whether karma is real or not. But here's the thing. Some people use karma as an excuse for why they can't make money in this life. Here's what I'd say. If your past life was so important, you'd still be living it. But you're not. You're here, now. I think free will is way more important than karma or anything else. You have the power to move forward or backward at any moment. Free will is a gift that even God doesn't take away from us because it's something He gave us. Now, let's bust a few popular myths. When I say myth, I'm talking about something that people believe because they don't understand the cause behind it. There's a difference between casualty, which means something happened by chance, and causality, which means there's a cause behind it, and people often mix these two up. For example, some people think that to earn money, you've got to work your butt off, which isn't really true. You've got to work smart, not just hard. There's this story about a guy who became a millionaire at 65, and when someone interviewed him on TV, they asked, "Why'd you hit the millionaire mark at 65? Why not 55 or 45? And his answer was pretty deep. He said, "I was so busy working that I didn't have time to make money." Think about that. Sometimes people are so caught up in the daily grind that they don't take a step back to see the bigger picture. I don't know if that's you, but sometimes it's good to take a break. A vacation can do wonders. Sometimes you come back refreshed with a bunch of new ideas. So, if you're grinding away and not getting anywhere, it might be time to take a breather and reassess. Another myth is thinking that you can't earn money and have fun at the same time. Some people have this mindset like, "I work hard during the week, and then I finally get to have fun on the weekend." But here's the deal. What you do for fun, someone else does as a job. Seriously, I don't know what your hobby is, but I can bet that someone out there is getting paid to do it. The dream is to turn your hobby into a career, so you never feel like you're working a day in your life. Every day will feel like a vacation. The ultimate dream is to have a job that makes you happy even if you didn't get paid. Then, you can charge a little fee just because you've got to eat, right? That way, you're always feeling good about what you're doing. It's all about doing what you love and loving what you do. But here's the thing. Even if you're doing something awesome, there will always be something else that's just as cool or even cooler. For example, I love making YouTube videos, but I have to crank out a bunch of scripts every day. Spending 10 hours writing a single script isn't always fun, especially when you're not sure if the video will get any views. It's super exhausting. Researching, fixing mistakes, and all that. But when I start feeling frustrated, I remind myself, hey, this is just part of my life. Creating these videos is part of the deal. That's the price I'm paying. Sometimes, I use a little help from AI to make the process more fun and less of a grind. So, I've come to accept that I won't always be chilling in my comfort zone. Even when you're doing what you love, there are always going to be parts of the job that aren't so great. But you've got to find a way to enjoy the process because that's what completes the whole picture. Now, let's bust another myth. People often say, you know why I'm not making money? Because I don't have a job like my brother. And when you ask what their brother does, they might say, oh, he's a doctor. But here's the truth. I know broke doctors and rich doctors, broke lawyers and rich lawyers, broke accountants and rich accountants, broke artists and rich artists, broke journalists and rich journalists. You can find people struggling financially and people who are thriving in every profession. So, don't blame your job. You could be making something as simple as needles and still end up a millionaire. It's not about the job itself. It's about how you do it. Let me drop some knowledge on you. Most of the richest people in the world weren't exactly book smart. Take Thomas Edison. He had just 3 months of formal schooling. Henry Ford? He only made it to the 2nd grade. Then there's Bill Gates. He's broken 3 world records, amassed a $100 billion fortune, the most anyone's ever done in human history, and did it in just 12 years. He was also the youngest billionaire at 32. And guess what? He dropped out of college to start Microsoft. So, the excuse that you don't have a degree? That's not going to fly. In fact, some folks who are super intellectual can't even pay their bills at the end of the month. If you've got a relative, neighbor, or friend who's really smart but broke, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you should stop studying. What I'm saying is that studying alone isn't enough. Making a cake isn't just about having flour, butter, or eggs. You need all the ingredients. Knowledge is like one of those ingredients, but it's not the whole recipe. If being smart was all it took, every intellectual would be a millionaire, right? But we know that's not the case. Another myth people love to throw around is, there's not enough money for everyone. But the truth is, the financial market just keeps growing. The purchasing power of people today is massive, like 4 times 10 to the power of $15. Think about it. Back in the cave era, the world's wealth was basically nothing. Now, the global gross domestic product is through the roof, and that was all created by the human mind. This has nothing to do with where you live or what you look like. It's all about what you let into your head, what you hear and what you believe. So, understanding all of this is crucial, and getting a grip on the concept of the money magnet is essential. That's where the idea of personal tithing comes in. It's one of the big concepts we've talked about. We've covered a lot of ground here. My advice? Listen to this video a few times. The more you hear it, the deeper it'll sink into your subconscious. We started by talking about prosperity, health, wealth, family. We touched on financial success and what it means to have a prosperity mindset. We broke down different financial levels: survival, barely getting by, saving under the mattress, and achieving financial independence. We discussed the wheel of abundance and the importance of asking, receiving, declaring, and thanking. We also dove into the world of science, philosophy, and psychology. Remember the model of the mind with the thinker and the prover? The thinker thinks, and the prover proves. If you change what you're thinking, you change your life. We also talked about the creative process where you become a co-creator of your own life. We covered the principles of deep analysis, suggestion, and goal setting. We distinguished between having an objective and having a goal. Your objective is what you aim to achieve, while your goal is the steps you take to get there. Your purpose in life is something you only fulfill when you're done living. If you're still here, it means you're still working on your purpose. Then, we got into the laws of wealth, the law of earning, the law of spending, the law of saving, and the law of investing. All wealth is created by the human mind. You're not going to just walk down the street and have wealth fall into your lap. If you want to get rich, you've got to learn how to create it. Money's value is determined by what the buyer and seller agree on in every transaction. We talked about how what's valuable to one person is valuable to another. We also discussed the importance of being frugal. If you know how to save, set aside 10%, and combine that with generosity and charity, you're on the right path. We emphasized making your money work for you instead of the other way around. Liquidity, profitability, security, and don't forget the legality of your investments are all important aspects to consider. We also touched on the psychological aspects of prosperity. Working hard alone isn't what makes you wealthy. I'm not saying you shouldn't work, but working hard without a strategy isn't enough. You've got to find something you enjoy and turn that hobby into your job. It's not just about how educated you are. It's about how competent you are in taking action. Sure, education is important, but just having a degree doesn't necessarily mean you'll earn more money. And remember, the universe is full of potential abundance. Now, before we wrap things up, here's something important to think about. If you could go to a cemetery and chat with the people there, they'd probably tell you that life felt way too short, that there wasn't enough time to do everything they wanted to do. So, take a moment to rethink things. You were born to grow, so don't let anything or anyone get in the way of your journey. You've been listening to this video all along. Now, what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to listen, or are you going to put it into action? I suggest listening to it at least 7 times to really shake up your mindset. And then, once you've absorbed all this knowledge, start putting it into practice. Just hearing this stuff isn't enough. You've got to do something with it. This knowledge will only become valuable when you move it from the realm of thought into the realm of action. If you made it through this whole video, drop a comment saying, "I made it to the end." When I see that comment, I'll give it a little heart. So, that's my 2 cents for today. I hope new opportunities open up for you, that life treats you kindly, that the sun shines softly on your face, and that the rain nourishes your fields. And until we meet again, may the universe keep you safe. Now, there are some other videos popping up on your screen. Don't leave just yet, go check them out. I'm sure they'll bring even more value to your life. Big hug, and see you soon.